Hi guys, Shanta from Amazing Fitness. So today we'll be going through the second part on the book summary of the advanced marathoning on hydration and nutrition, right? So why is hydration important? Well, because when dehydration occurs, the availability of blood decreases, and with less amount of blood and oxygen to be sent to the target working muscles, we will produce less energy aerobically, and this means we can only run at slower pace. It's even worse on a hot and humid day when a lot of the blood is being pumped to our skin in order to cool down our body temperature, and therefore even less blood is pumped to our working muscles. Now, how much water do we need to drink? First, we need to know how much water that we lost after a training session. Typically, you want to weigh yourself before and after a training session. For instance, I weigh 67 kg. After running an hour, I lose typically 1 kg of my body weight, and the majority of my weight loss is attributed to water loss. But I will need to consume 1.5 times of the water that I lost, because a lot of water is converted to urine almost immediately after you have consumed it. Well, it is typically recommended not to lose more than 2% of your body weight as water, and that is also why the reason most workout below an hour shouldn't require drinking during the workout. But on longer workout sessions, you would want to consume some water to avoid water loss more than 2% of your body weight. But there's a limit on how much water you can consume. Research shows that the maximum amount of water that you can consume during running is about 710 millimeter to 880 millimeter per hour. If you drink more than that, you will just have extra water sloshing around in your stomach. But in practice, it is quite challenging to be able to drink this much water during a marathon. So it is important to practice drinking water during your run to train your body's ability to absorb more water during the run. We'll talk about more on how to replenish your water during an actual marathon in the later chapter on race day strategy. Next, let's talk about carbohydrates. Now, why is carbs important? In the previous chapter, we talked about in marathoning, we use mainly two energy systems, that is the aerobic system and the glycolytic system. And the glycolytic system uses glycogen as its fuel, which is a form of carbohydrates. Typically, the more intense the run, the higher proportion of energy comes from the glycolytic system. And in a marathon, usually about 80% of the energy is sourced from the glycolytic system. And our body only have about 2,000 to 2,500 calories of glycogens stored in our body. And there's this term called hitting the wall in marathon, and this is typically encountered around 30 to 35 km in the marathon. This happens when we have used up all our glycogens in our body, and we feel this extreme sense of fatigue. Having enough glycogen storage is also important in our daily training to ensure the quality of our training. So how much carb you are required to take in a day very much depends on the volume of your training. Say if you are training anywhere between 60 to 90 minutes, you should be taking 5 to 7 grams of carbs per kilogram of your body. Now, the timing when you take carbs is also important. You certainly don't want to train with an empty stomach. So having a meal 3 to 4 hours before your training is usually recommended. At the same time, you should also aim to replenish your glycogen storage as soon as you finish your training. Typically, within 30 minutes after your training, you want to consume 1 gram of carbs per kilogram of body and another gram within 2 hours after the training. And it is also recommended to have a meal within 3 hours after the training. It is also recommended to take 15 to 20 grams of protein together with these carbs after the training to enhance muscle repair and glycogen replenishment. Now let's talk about how much carbs we should be taking during a marathon. So in average, we have about 2,000 to 2,500 calories of glycogen stored in our body. And during a marathon, we probably consume about 3,000 to 3,500 calories of energy, and about 80% comes from glycogen. That means we need about 2,500 to 3,000 calories of glycogen. That means we still need to take 500 to 1,000 calories of carbs during the race to avoid hitting the wall. Now, how much carbs is that? So 1 gram of carb has 4 calories. If you work out the math, that's about 140 to 250 grams of carbs. And let's say if you run a 4-hour marathon, you need 35 grams to 83 grams of carbs per hour. That's anywhere between 1 to 3 energy bars. Now let's highlight a few micronutrients that deserve special attention. The first one is iron, right? And iron deficiency is quite common in runners, and especially so among female runners, because runners have high blood volume, and this results in lower iron concentration. And at the same time, food strike hemolysis and damage from muscle contraction also results in poor iron concentration in our blood. And hemolysis is more severe among runners who train more often on harder surfaces than softer surfaces. Sweat is also a source of iron loss. We sweat a lot during our runs. Some signs of iron deficiencies are feeling fatigued, cold, elevated heart rate. Now, what is the recommended iron that we should be taking every day? Well, the recommended daily intake, or the RDI of iron, is 8 milligram for male and 18 milligram for female. But Fitzinger recommends female runners to consume 70% more than the recommended daily intakes. Next, on protein, generally recommended to take 1.6 grams of protein per kg of your body. If you do weight training like me at the same time, then you probably need more than that. Anywhere above 2 grams per kilogram of your body is a good start. Vitamin, 1000 IU. And some interesting facts about caffeine. Caffeines are shown to boost the performance of marathoners by up to 1% in some studies. But it's less effective among people who consume caffeine regularly. So if you want to get more boost effect from caffeine, perhaps you should limit the amount of caffeine that you take every day, thereby getting more boost from caffeine on your race day. Another supplement that a lot of runners take is nitrate. And nitrate can be typically found in beet juice, and in some study it shows that it requires less amount of oxygen for the same intensity workout. And just a few quick notes on race day nutrition. Eat 3 to 4 hours before the competition and aim to have at least 200 to 500 calories of carbs, and also 0.5 liters of water to replace fluid loss overnight. And also carb loading, which we will talk more about on the race day strategy chapter.